based upon an ongoing collaborative creative project called Tidal Timespace. This short film presents a summary of a paper we have written for the special issue of Voicing Rivers in the journal River Research and Applications. We explore the idea of river as forms of memory, a physical memory, flowing through terrain over centuries and eons, a memory entangled politically, culturally and socially. Rivers are also key strands of an individual's memory. The River Severn, at 220 miles long, is the longest river in Great Britain. It is also the river with the most voluminous flow of water by far, discharging into the Bristol Channel, which runs on west to join the Celtic Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. We focus particularly on the tidal reaches of the Severn, which form the Severn Estuary, one of the natural wonders of the world.
Bahia Adair is located in the upper Gulf of California in Sonora, Mexico. The sparsely populated coastline consists of 3 different habitats: wetlands, artesian wells, also known as pozos, and salt pans. The wetlands extend along 47 miles of the coast, from Punta Boscoso in the north to Estero La Choya in the south. All 6 wetlands are inverse hypersaline estuaries, created by tidal inflow and meandering channels. Bahia Adair is part of the Alto Golfo de California Biosphere Reserve, an UNESCO reserve that includes El Pinacate volcanic region and Gran Desierto de Altar, the largest sand sea in North America. Our larger collaborative project is called Tidal Timespace, Imprints and Palimpsests, a project that creatively explores the loved details and ecologies of each landscape, revering their uniquenesses as well as their shared traits. These characteristics are very much about rhythmic flows of water, often tide-driven, and the ecologies these are bound into, interweaving nature and culture, past, present, and future, dry and watery, and fresh and salty space. They include very rich biodiversities in the classic sense, but also ecologies of memory, as these landscapes have been known to us since earliest childhood. These memory vignettes offer a collaborative, conversational script, gently inviting readers into a multisensory time space that texturally moves back and forth like the tides.
In particular, the paper explores the idea of the river mouth and how these embody corporeal, ecological, historical and political attributes and stand as a metaphor for creative exchange. A river's mouth expresses the essence of polyvocality, that is, the mixing of voices and languages, both human and non-human. The project also focuses on the fleeting traces left in the intertidal areas by the agencies of water and humans and animals. These are recorded by photography and put side by side, and Heather makes plaster casts of them at low tide and then working with them in the studio.
So much of our collaborative work is accomplished at home or through long-distance correspondence. The spirit of our project is performed in the field. Images and ideas string together in walking, listening, tracing, conversing, reflecting, and collecting. As Les Roberts states, the map is lodged in the more immaterial spaces of the body and imagination. Its performativity is made flesh in the way the walker inhabits and dwells within the space that both map and walker conjure into being. Timing our fieldwork on the flats during low tide, we submit to chance encounters and discoveries, to weather and to spaces of silence and exchange. The finished installation will consist of a series of plaster casts of mudflat textures from each site, an ambient soundscape created from artistic interpretations of tidal data, and an artist book that includes a lexicon listing historical details, scientific phenomena, colloquial names, species, and site-specific culture and vocabulary in both English and Welsh for the Severn Estuary and English and Spanish for Bahia Adair. This naming preserves personal, ecological, and cultural heritage, even in the face of possible new developments or altered landscapes. As Lucy Lepard states, untold land is unknown land. Naming is the way we image and imagine communal history and identity. Nested between the lexicon entries are childhood memory vignettes, in which we endeavor to remember our lost tidal landscapes. In the early 1990s, 80% of Estero La Choya was destroyed to build a golf course and housing development, and in the 1980s, the salt marsh flats called the Lambie, where the mouth of the river Rymie joins the Severn Estuary, was taken by Cardiff City Council for the site of a large landfill facility to process and dispose of the city's waste. As such, these written fragments exist as a kind of watery recasting of places and people that are no longer with us. Much like the plaster mudflat casts that create a facsimile of fleeting patterns, scripts, and traces, these memories exist as registers, preserving moments that have imprinted on who we are. The countless textures left at low tide uphold the patterns of tidal rhythms and flows of water, casting wavelets that have been reworked as a palimpsest and lay ground for what will soon be erased and rewritten again.
Rhythm is to time what pattern is to space, and these need to be considered together. Tidal processes offer fertile grounds on which to explore such ideas, as they are so obviously temporal and spatial at once. This account of our relatively new and ongoing collaboration, which sprang out of a realization that we shared similar interests, loves and concerns for two river tidal landscapes, we have tried to creatively capture our sharing across continents, sharing memories of lost and remaining places, and trying to voice the rivers, tidal channels and tidal flats in question through walking, writing, mapping, comparing, making and remembering. We have sought to deploy what could be termed overall a non-representational approach, insofar as a creative account is needed to bring these physical places to life through various means and practices. These include aspects of autotopographical writing, elements of deep mapping, and elements of polyvocality, in contrast to modern approach of knowledge, which can be summarized as divide and rule and often, it is sad to say, despoil. We hope our approach offers at least a potentially ecological form of knowledge creation, which seeks to creatively embrace the interconnectivity of all processes and evolutionary understandings how the Earth and cosmos advance through space-time in a burgeoning creative becoming of which they and we are a collective part.
One quiet night, during one of the lowest tides, we ventured seaward. We walked and walked in knee-deep water with the rhythmic splashing, plodding along with flashlights in hand. We hoped to find evidence of the tide line by reaching higher water, or something emerging from the fathoms that would let us know we had reached a boundary, but we never did. The water level never changed no matter how long or far we dared to walk. It seemed to go on forever, as though we could walk all the way to Baja. Looking out in the distant fog, we could just make out the silhouettes of sleeping herons, and high overhead the Milky Way spread over us like a sequined sun. After a while, an uneasy feeling of getting too far out and not knowing when the tide would turn overcame our original excitement. So with a quickened step, we headed back.